This is the Property Secrets Podcast, presenting respected author, commentator, and speaker Darren Standish, providing insights into the hidden secrets of real estate and building wealth through property.
Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Property Secrets, the show where we talk to experts from around the country to get insider's guide into buying, selling, and developing property. This week, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Jonathon Grima. He's been investing in property for many years now. He's got his own building company called John Cole Building Services, and I thought I'd get him on the show. I've just seen so much about what he's done and his experiences and so forth, and I thought, he'd be amazing sort of wealth of knowledge. So thanks for joining us, John.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you, Darren, for the invite.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, it seems you've developed so much knowledge and skills over the years. How did you get to where you got to right now?
I think I've definitely had a passion for property from a young age. Started with my family, who were property investors, and then my brothers are all into property. So I've just been surrounded by property all the time, and even in the building side of things, not only investing in property, but also building. So hence the reason why I started at a young age as a carpenter and became a registered builder at a young age, and built my first home when I was 20 years of age. I moved into it. So I bought it as an apprentice at 18, the land, and built it on the side after work and on weekends. So first ever home at 20 years of age, which I'm very proud of. My first ever. And ever since, I had a fefew properties, bought a lot of land, built a home, moved in it, sold it, because as a principal place of residence, I knew that there was obviously the tax-free threshold, so you don't get taxed on, not threshold, but you don't get taxed on the property. So I've been doing that a few times and buying investment property that I'm holding at the moment.
So it sounds like it's in your blood, basically. Like even before you started out, like when you became a tradie, you didn't actually intend to be a tradie. You sort of said, I'm going to be a tradie, but I'm going to set myself up as a property investor. Was that your sort of mindset?
Definitely. Yeah, and it's also another stream of revenue that I get. So the rent coming in from my own rental properties, the business that brings in the income, they just work like a cog. They work hand in hand. Any property I look at, I know what can be done with it and what price it would might take to add another room or update the kitchen, bathroom. It'd be silly for me to get into the share market when I know so much about property.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And if you had to sort of learn by trial and error, it sounds like your family were really involved in it, and did they give you a helping hand, or basically you think of one of those things you have to just get out there and make mistakes yourself?
Oh, look, I have made a couple of mistakes here and there, but one of my brothers is done really well for himself in property. So he's kind of a mentor for me. He's been buying property since he was, I think, 18 or 17, 18. And he's got so many, and anything I buy, I just run it by him. He's constantly looking at property, and we always talk to each other about what's on the market, and let's go check this one out. I'll look up to him, and he gives me a lot of good advice.
Yeah, it's good to have someone to sort of a sounding board, I suppose, to just double check what you're doing makes sense. And do you have a particular strategy? If you sort of, after these years, I suppose you had a bit of trial and error at the start, but over time, do you sort of have a strategy? If you're looking for buy and hold, or you're buy and renovate and sell, or buy and develop, or how would you sort of give it to us in a nutshell of your plan of how to get to where you got to?
Yeah, look, I just see it as like Monopoly, the game Monopoly. So the board, I believe I'm 1/3 of my way around the board in Monopoly. So I've got 2/3 to go. And once I've gone those 2/3, I'll then start developing on all these properties that I have. So every property I buy, I buy them for capital growth, but also to be able to add value if I wanted to flip it straight away. But in many cases, I know it's a unit site. So, in many years to come, when I've gone around the board, I can either pull down that dwelling and put down, at least 2 or 3 properties on it, or I could do so much with it. So basically, yeah, Monopoly is how I play the game.
So if you're looking at potential, if you're looking at potential to renovate or develop, then it's sort of, you're looking at mainly older properties. Then you're not looking at building brand new properties on blocks of land or anything like that.
No, I've done the sums in a lot of cases, and I don't think there's always money being made if you're doing a one, like to pull down a home and put 2 units on there straight away. I just think that holding onto the property nowadays is actually the way to make money, as opposed to necessarily doing a build. When I do my own quick feasibility studies, it just shows. Yeah, I think the way of the future is just holding onto the property, especially when the properties that I buy are either neutral or positive geared. So I don't have to really worry about paying for the property. The rent pays itself, providing I can get the money from the banks to be able to buy the properties. I mean, that's my biggest concern, and one of the hardest things to do is get money from the bank to buy the property. But as for maintaining the property, it's not an issue. So hence the reason why Monopoly, anytime I'm in a situation where I can get money off the bank, I'll buy a property. I can get more money off the bank, I'll buy a property. I don't have a problem with buying properties, because I know that I can do X, Y, and Z to add value to it. Whether the market crashes, but whether the market stays stagnant for 5 years or 10 years, not that it will, but if it did, I know that I can spend $20,000 and get an extra $80,000 for the property, because I'm in the building game, and I know I can do it at cost. So that's how I'm confident to buy property all the time.
So there's value in there, and you're basically locking away that value for a future time, I suppose. And then as long as you're covering costs, so it's not costing you any money, then the more value you can lock away for the future, there's no downside. Is that your thinking?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I'm young enough to go. I'm young enough to hold on to the property. I don't plan to retire next year, but I'm definitely young enough to go through a few cycles. I'm comfortable with the lifestyle that I have right now. I know when I do decide to retire, I'll be very comfortable. That's how I live my life.
Give us a bit. I suppose some people might not understand. They might have been in a similar situation to you, where they've got ability to buy more than one property at a time, or have bought multiple properties. But explain to us a little bit about the situation with banks. Once you start, you bought your first property. A lot of people just go to their mortgage broker or their bank and buy their first property, and they borrow 80% of the loan or whatever. What's part? Once you start getting it would make sense if your property is covering its own costs and you can see there's extra value in the property. Why wouldn't banks lend you more money?
Well, you become a risk to banks if you. The banks. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, but why wouldn't the banks lend me money?
Is it more like they don't value the rental income as much as they would just if you had a day job? If I had an office job, and they'd count that income, but they don't count rental income in the same sort of fashion. Is that the problem? Or
I think that they don't account as much as what they used to, I believe. Me being as a business owner, I think they classify me as self-employed. Income varies from year to year. I do pay myself a wage, but it varies year to year what income that I need. My accountants tell me I sort of need to declare. So, but if I had a 9-to-5 job and had a regular income coming in, it'd be a lot easier to get a loan. Again, like my brother, he's a chef. He gets X amount of dollars per year. Him and his wife don't have issues getting loans because they've got a pay slip coming in each and every week. Whereas being self-employed and in the building industry, 1 week, I can go weeks without getting paid. As running a building company, cash flow is important. But I don't have a pay slip that comes in each and every week to show the banks. So that's why they see me as a what do you call it? No. As a risk.
Yeah. But and the thing is too, you're not necessarily a risk because you obviously have a plan, and you obviously, relative to, I don't know, probably even the bank manager that you're talking to when you go to trying to get the loan and he knocks you back, probably might be in a less risky situation where he might be, where he's, a huge amount of mortgage and a whole pile of other expenses and all that sort of stuff. But I suppose that's the thing, you don't necessarily fit into the model of the bank on how they look at how people should earn their money, because because they earn their money from a day job. Then they're like, hang on, how come you don't have a day job? You've off taking risks by setting up your own company and buying all these properties and doing all these developments. So you're sort of thinking outside the square to try and get yourself ahead. But then likewise, I suppose the system is sort of holding you back to a degree.
It is. All the loans that I have are low doc loans. I'm paying high interest and loan mortgages, insurance on all the properties that I have. I mean, if I was able to get a full doc loan, I'd be in a much better situation. Or full doc loans on all my property, I'd be making a lot more money, and I guess I'd be able to buy more property because the banks will be able to see that this guy can afford to maintain these properties. It's a tough one trying to get money all the time off the banks.
Yeah.
I mean,
but unfortunately, I suppose at the end of the day, when you're in a situation where the banks have the money and then and you want their money to be able to buy a property, then you just have to do whatever the system allows you to do, I suppose, and just have to adapt. And then, unfortunately, you've managed to find a way around that and continue to still build your portfolio. And because obviously the benefit to you and having your own business and setting up your own business and this financially, but also the skills that involves and access to opportunities you might not have access to with your brother as a chef. He's got a regular income, which gives a lot more security, but likewise, he doesn't necessarily have all the access or the contacts that you might have as, working in the building industry, I imagine.
Oh, look, he doesn't, but when he needs it, he comes through me.
Yeah.
So I do help him in that regards when it comes to fixing up his properties. And he really enjoys fixing up property. I was going to say something, forgot what it was, but anyway.
No, that's all good. And I suppose the reason I'm pointing this out is, people look at people like yourself, and you're obviously, quite successful, and they imagine, oh man, everything's easy for you, and then you can see there's everyone has difficulties they're dealing with, and sometimes running a successful business and doing these developments, you're still dealing with difficulties. And likewise, your brother's situation, he's got difficulties. Well, they're different difficulties, and so that's the thing. People have to understand that they have to sort of just adapt to where their situation's at right now, and then try and deal with those situations and trying to work out, okay, this is where I'm at right now. These is what I got to get over to try and get to where I want to go. But I suppose just your goal, and probably your brother's goal too, is probably the same. You just maybe have slightly different paths of how you get there based on where your starting point is.
Correct. When I need to get more money, out of a bank, I'll think to myself, well, if I did X, Y, and Z to a certain property, increase the value of it, get it revalued, there'll be some additional funds there that I can use as a deposit to purchase another property. So, relying a fair bit on capital growth, but also adding value to these properties that I have and getting them revalued. So, every year I'm getting the banks. I'm always looking at buying properties, so the properties are always getting revalued. And if they've remained the same, or if I see that if I put in 5,000 and did the bathroom, am I going to get an extra 40,000 out of the bank in order to put that as a deposit for the next property? So these are things that are always popping in the back of my mind. I'm always, lying in bed or on the calculator, working out sums and figures. How much money or equity is in that property? Has it grown? Should I hold on to it? I mean, they're always growing, but some properties are growing a lot quicker than others. When I purchase properties, I always, if I can have a 2-year settlement, I will. I'll always push the settlement as long as I can, because I know while I haven't even settled on it, it's making me money. It's growing. So in most cases, it's 120 days. I'm settling on property, and on the day of settlement, because I bought really low, and when the market's just about to boom, I've made X amount of money in a short period of time. It's quite amazing. I get a bit of a thrill when you made money and you haven't even you've only put a small deposit down. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, no, it's congratulations. You've done. I'm sure it sounds like you've done an amazing job. Have you sort of, so every property you buy, you've sort of got a particular plan in mind, or you just see an opportunity that pops up, or do you? I imagine if you're sort of you're trying to get a bit of a discount on the price you're buying, you want to make sure you can create some extra value with the property, and but also you're trying to think long term. How's this going to step me up down the track? I suppose you can't necessarily always focus locally because market conditions, or there might not be opportunities out locally. Do you purely focus where properties within your area, or do you look interstate as well, or what's your situation with that?
Not at this stage interstate, but I do plan to go interstate. Look, I I'm from Melbourne, and I particularly target the western suburbs area. I've been, born and bred in the west, so I know a lot about the area. My strategy, again, being cash flow positive or neutral, is the properties that I buy. In many cases, they're within 17 kilometres of the CBD, so they're not necessarily the far outskirts of Melbourne, but they're close enough where they're getting growth. They're not in rural areas where there's much growth. Not much growth, but these are getting growth. They're close to the CBD. They're cash flow positive. I look for things in the property where some of the properties I've got bungalows on there, granny flats, and that helps with the properties being cash flow positive. For me, I feel comfortable investing. It's relatively local because I can go down the road, travel 20 minutes, and I could add value to the property. Whereas if it's in the state, I may not be able to add value to it. I may have to outsource and get another builder to do it. Whereas here, I can drive by the property, have a look at how the tenants are looking after it, but at the same time, easily fix it up because it's so close.
Because that's one of the things I do advise people, and is the fact that you're less likely to make a mistake if you're buying local, because, I may not, I can almost, if I ask you what your neighbour's house is worth, you have a pretty good idea of what your neighbour's house is worth without getting on, reports and trying to analyse all the statistics and stuff, because you just have a general feel of the market. Whereas if I asked you to, what this apartment on the Gold Coast is worth, then it's a lot harder for you. And, you get off there and try and work it out and take a bit of a guess. But at the end of the day, you don't really know. So is that your philosophy as well, is you sort of just feel more comfortable investing in areas
Definitely. I could literally go to any open house and within minutes know what it would be worth, or if it was to be, I can make an offer and feel comfortable that I've made an offer that's fair and reasonable, but also at a good price where there's money being made for myself. But I totally agree where. Knowing the market, I know what my neighbour's worth on that side, I know what neighbour's worth on that side, and where the rental properties I own, what the property next door would be worth. So it's specialising in a suburb is great, and surrounding suburbs is also good to know the surrounding suburbs. Yeah,
and I think my feeling is you're less likely to make a mistake if you know the area relatively well, and so I think it's more important not to lose money than it is to make money. Because if you don't lose money, if you start out, particularly when you're starting out, it's all a bit of a trial and error type thing. And so if you lose your money right at the start, then you're stuffed. Basically, it's really hard for you to build up. Later on down the track, you can make a few mistakes, and it's not the end of the world. But as you're starting out, you really don't want to lose money. So again, that's where the value of local comes in. You're less likely to lose money, and you might miss out on some opportunities that might be interstate and stuff. But I think it's that's my sort of gut feel as well. So totally agree with your logic there. So. I know a lot of people are probably watching this and saying, "Hey, Johnny, that's really awesome. You're buying all these cash flow positive properties, but there's none around me. You're just in the luckiest suburb in all of Australia, because that's the only place where they have cash flow positive properties." What does it mean to be cash flow positive? And I know I'm sure you're talking to people too all the time when you say, "Hey, I look at cash flow positive," and I'm like, that doesn't exist. It's not even possible. So how come it is that you can see these properties and other people can't?
Look, I think there's quite a few cash flow properties that are in the country, but in Melbourne, there's very minimal. So how like I said, with the bungalows, it helps. That's a little trick of mine. There's a particular real estate agent that I liaise with a lot, and as soon as I hear there's a property with 2 bungalows and it's in a certain location, I'll literally pounce on it, because I know that I could buy that property and it'll be paying itself off. Literally from day dot, and so then in 7 years' time, when I want to be able to potentially pull down that home or extend that home and get rid of the bungalows, I can make a heap of money that way. But look, it's a lot of sums, a lot of calculations that are involved when buying property, and in and around Melbourne, it works. A lot of people say you can't buy a cash flow positive in this location, but you know what, I have, and they're maybe not trying hard enough. But having a good network of real estate agents is a good way to go, especially when it's off the market is exciting, because you know that you're the only one looking at this property, and you can do a deal very quickly, and it helps the real estate agents, helps the sellers, helps everyone to be able to buy something off the market.
So basically, one of the ways to make a property cash flow positive or a better return on your money is to buy it cheaper straight away. You've more chance of getting money back on it.
Correct. I'll do the sums when I'm talking to the real estate agent. I'll have my phone in, and I'll be doing what do you call it? Basically, I'm doing all the maths to go, if at this price is when it's neutral, and at this price is cash flow positive. So neutral is the minimum I'll go to, and whatever the figure says, essentially I'll go to the agent. Well, I'll pay 448,500, because I know that's the lowest price I can go to. And I'll just make the offer. You don't know what the seller's reasons for selling. If they want to accept that offer, they can. I'll be flexible with the agent or the seller. I'll be like, whatever. In many cases, I'll push for the longer settlement. But if they want 60 days, I'll go to 60. But I'll always ask for 120. But I'll also release the funds to them. So Section 27, I'll be able to offer that to the person selling the property. So that benefits them.
Just if our viewers don't know what that Section 27 is, because they're in other states, just explain what that means.
It's basically the 10% deposit that I normally put down on a property. It means instead of saying in a trust account that the government gains interest on, you're able to release those funds minus the agent fees to the person selling the property. So they get that money in their bank account a lot quicker, and it's a lot appealing for them to get that money, as opposed to waiting until the 120 days, until the day of settlement. So it's just a little way to add value without really affecting me. And I feel. Hello.
Hey, it's cool. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah.
Then we can edit that out.
It was an actual a real estate agent that just called me then. One I was talking about just before.
Yeah.
So actually, that's how I buy a bit of property as well. So the numbers of the property mean something. So my lucky number's 3. So anything with a 3 in it, or 333, or 33 is a property I'll buy. So I sort of work with the universe, and that's how actually the building, even when it comes to building, if we'll have like an influx of, let's call it a Darren. We'll have 3 customers all at the same time having Darren as a name. And then if we get another customer that's got Darren, I'm like, the universe is giving me another Darren, so I'm going to take it. I believe in signs. So sometimes it's very, it's difficult when buying property. Like you wonder, should I buy it? Should I not? And then I actually put it out there, the universe, give me a sign. Should I buy this property or not? And and most of the times the universe will give me that sign, and it's like, okay, I'm going to buy it. Or the figure, what figure should I pay for this property? I know I said before about calculating sums, but if you don't want that, or you don't know how to work it out, or you can always ask the universe for a sign. And it's exciting when things work out. Yeah.
Sounds like you've got the universe helping you out. I've got I use the gut feel, so I've only got my gut helping me out, which isn't quite as good as the universe. But I mention that to clients all the time. I say, hey, if you're not sure, because when I do a lot of thorough sort of analysis and same sort of thing, you crazy amounts of numbers, trying to make sure you've covered everything. And at the end of the day, if it just doesn't feel right, then it doesn't feel right. And then because 9 times out of 10, if you ignore that sort of feel, then it just works out badly for you. So I generally just go with my gut feel.
I agree. That's good.
Yeah, excellent. Well, this is called Property Secrets. So, and you've given us amazing insight into the way you think about property and the way your strategy investing in property. Is there one secret you can advise to our listeners on what they should be thinking about if they want to get to achieve the sort of success you have?
One thing to be thinking about. Look, I don't think there's one set key rule, but I think in one of the most important, in Australia, we can't go wrong with buying and holding onto the property. We really can't. if you've got enough time, if you're young enough, you can definitely buy and hold. Networking with real estate agents is a really good one, and doing business with people that you can trust. At this stage, I don't think I've ever bought a property of someone. It could be a good deal, but if I don't like that real estate agent, I'd be put off. I don't really want to deal with anyone that's untrustworthy. So, dealing with real estate agents that are really trustworthy is very important to me.
All right, thanks, Joni. I appreciate your time today, and I'm sure all our listeners would have got a huge amount of value out of what you had to talk about. If someone did want to try and they get in touch with you, or maybe if they're interested in your building company as well. I know you're not necessarily talking about that today, but they might live in Melbourne. They might need a hand with a renovation. How would they try and get in touch with you?
For our website, johncole.com.au, and or Facebook, John Cole Building Services would be the best way.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time today, and I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thank you, Darren. Pleasure. Thank you very much.
This has been the Property Secrets Podcast with Darren Standish. Learn more at propertyprosperity.com.au.